Hello race fans and welcome to the World Touring Car Series live here on RaceSpotTV. It's round 8 of the championship. We're in to the final portion of the season and the championship battle is heating up with Ross McFarlane leading the way from Corentin Guinness and Kieran Harrison. It's Peter Mackay here in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth alongside my usual partner in crime, Paul Smith. Paul, the World Touring Car Series has always provided great action. This season, this championship chase, it's going to rattle on right until the last lap of the season.
It certainly is. I mean, those Sim RC drivers have certainly had an edge over everyone else, but it only takes one or two bad rounds and before you know it, everybody else is getting back up there into the championship fight, and we should have a really good one going into the final portion of the season.
I think we will, that's for sure, as we're now well into the second half of the season. We started off all the way back at the beginning of January at the Red Bull Ring before moving on to Hockenheim, Monza, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and the bumps of Sebring before finishing off the first half of the season on the Nürburgring Grand Prix track. 2 weeks ago we went to the Suzuka circuit with Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache, our venue for today, also known as Interlagos. Next week we head to Watkins Glen and then on to Magny-Cours, the brilliant Knockhill Racing Circuit, and closing off at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone National. 12 rounds, 36 races. This is how the championship standings look at the moment. Ross McFarlane leads by just 54 points from Corentin Guinness, who has really brought himself back up into contention. Kieran Harrison lingers down in third after a good start to the season. Norbert Leitner sits in fourth and Esteban Rodriguez rounds out the top 5. Miguel Freitas sits 6th, followed by Sam Blees, David Baker, Wojciech Severovic and Øystein Herford rounds out your top 10 in the pro class. In AM, well, it's still Dan Martin who holds a commanding position at the top of the standings ahead of Craig Williams in the Seoul Audi. Damon McQueen sits in third with Andreas Gilman and Mike Pollard rounding out the top 5. Then it's Richard Simner, who sadly can't be with us tonight. Unfortunately, he's got COVID, so no driving tonight for Richard Simner. We wish him all the best. Ryan Hamilton sits in 7th with Stuart Bickley, James Parker and Scott Malcolm rounding out the top 10. In the team standings, well, it's Sim RC who hold the advantage for now over their big rivals Pure Sims Esports. Impulse Racing Valder sit in 3rd with Hydro Race Geodesic in 4th, Semper Racing in 5th, then it's Forumort Podcast by Geodesic, RD Sim Sport, CSS by Orano, Pure Sim Sim Lab and Impulse Racing Sim Racing Cockpit round out the top 10. In the Pro-Am standing, it's DCW who lead by the most slender of margins, just 5 points from Prestanda Nomad, who in turn hold just a 1 point advantage over DC Racing's blue team. It's so tight at the top of that championship. iRace Esports and Wiskins Racing round out your top 5 there. So the drivers are under qualifying conditions at the moment, trying to get themselves in the best possible position, and here at Interlagos, Paul, that qualifying spot is so important for that devilishly difficult opening section.
Yeah, through the Senna S, down the Curva de Sol and through the Retroposta down to Decidos Lago. On lap 1, it's always a little bit manic out there to get yourselves through. Then you've got that middle sector. It's a really technical middle sector. So interesting, so much fun to actually race around this track on that sector of the track. And then the final sector, out of Junsao, climb up the steep hill towards the start and finish line. It is one of those truly challenging tracks that these drivers are going to have to really compromise the setups, because you've got 2 high-speed sections but then a very technical section, and slipstream will be a thing around here, so just being at the very front may not be an advantage towards the end of the race.
Yeah, it's a long drag along to the checkered flag, so you're absolutely right, Paul. That draft could be really important as we see Terje Flatten go to 6th position there. Kieran Harrison is on pole position at the moment with Ross McFarlane right behind him, Corentin Guinness in 3rd. They were all in the pit, so they're all done. Fans of Richard Simner, we had got information that he wasn't driving. He is in fact driving. He's out there. He's sitting 19th on the grid at the moment, so he's fighting on despite feeling a bit under the weather. We love that tenacity here in the World Touring Car Series. many drivers coming in to complete their last few laps. Sam Smith picking up a nice little draft here in car number 27. He sits 16th in the overall standings at the moment. Second in the AM class. AM class led by Dan Martin at this stage. Over the line comes Sam. That was a pretty good draft he got there. Does he improve? Yes, he does, but he stays in the same position.
You know what? I once raced against Pete Newman. It was at Mid-Ohio in another touring car series a few years ago, and he actually raced from his hospital bed on an Xbox pad. So, you know, there is a history of sim racers wanting to try and keep a championship alive. They certainly do tough it out sometimes. So, yeah, it's really good to see Richard out there carrying on racing, and he has said that he did in practice sneeze on his way into turn 4 and managed to gain 0.3 of a second.
Well, it's more like a nitrous oxide injection than than anything else, like Fast and the Furious. Well, great to see Richard out there on track, and brilliant to really keep going and fight on to keep those championship points ticking along as we reach into the latter part of the season. It's going to be Kieran Harrison who starts on pole position. He's been the driver with the hottest pace throughout the championship. One missed round has hurt his chances at this stage as well, but with drop stores to come into play, it will come back to him. But let's see how they line up then for the opening race of 3 today here at Interlagos. Kieran Harrison leads from Ross McFarlane on the opening row of the grid. Then it's Cornton-Guinness and Wojciech Savidovic. Jack Cedric and Turley Flatten round out row 3. Then it's David Baker, Sam Blees, Norbert Leitner and Esteban Rodriguez, with Oystein Herford and Dan Martin rounding out row 6. Pete Newman's in 13th with Szilard Nagy in 14th, then it's Jaroslaw Sepula, Sam Smith, Matthias Penttila in the first of the Hondas, then it's Slavomir Jaworski. Richard Cinder rolls off from 19th with Craig Williams in his Audi there in 20th, then it's Stephen Walker, Tom Stanley, Andreas Gilman and David McQueen. Alain McCain starts from 25th alongside Mike Pollard, then it's Hakan Ask, Chris Chatterton, Nick Clibbens and Matt Elmore. 31st is Stuart Bickley with Paddy Faulkner, James Parker, Harry Fox, Rob Sutherland and Scott Malcolm rounding out the first 18 rows. Then it's Neil Stevenson, Spencer McCarthy, Jamie Rushworth and Ben Gregory starting at the back of our 40-car grid. So most of the drivers in their position, ready to unleash for what is a long drag down to turn 1. There's Ben Gregory at the back of the grid. Lots of work to do for our previous AM champion in that boosted Hyundai Veloster, but it's Kieran Harrison who is on pole position, raising the revs, ready to unleash the power. Heading down to turn 1 they go. We are racing here at Interlagos. Off we go. And Kieran Harrison gets a decent getaway, but immediately Ross McFarlane goes to cover off on the inside as well from Cornton-Guinness. They go in absolutely head and head, and it's Kieran Harrison that gets away in the lead then, with Ross McFarlane in second and Cornton-Guinness in third. But Paul, Ross McFarlane really had to defend hard there.
Oh, he certainly did. You know, Guinness got a sensational start away from the line, and yeah, he had to get to the inside, protect that line, did Ross, and that did compromise him against Kieran Harrison. But right now, it's not the end of the world. We have had one car retire back to pits. That's Neil Stevenson, the man with very little luck. Gets a bit more bad luck.
That's a shame. Neil taking the toll to the pit lane at the moment. Such a tight technical circuit here at Interlagos, right and left, second, third gear stuff in these touring cars, trying to jostle for position as Dan Martin there fighting with Pete Newman. Dan Martin's been the leader of the AM class throughout the season, holds a great championship advantage there, but because he's the top of the AM class, he's often there fighting with the pros. So that's exactly what he's doing here, up into 12th position for the driver of the RD SimSport number 70 car. But all seems well in this qualifying order race, Paul, coexisting pretty well.
Yeah, wait until races 2 and 3. I'm sure we said something similar last week, didn't we? But yeah, this is a really, really solid first opening lap of the race. Everybody all staying there in one long line. Now, Ross McFarlane, I think the thing that he's maybe from looking from the outside in, the thing that he's been struggling with in competing against the Sim RC drivers has been front tyre wear. Here's what's happened to Neil Stevenson. Oh, he just lost it, touched the grass. That's damaged the suspension. You watch coming into this braking zone, there is a tuft of grass right there. Back wheel onto it, into the concrete wall. And that's the end of his opening race. But yeah, the thing that I think that Ross has been dealing with compared to the Sim RC cars is just that tyre preservation towards the end of the race. They always seem to come alive towards the end of the race to the Sim RC drivers.
Yeah, that they do. Yeah, you're spot on there, Paul. And that's going to be an important thing to try and cope with over the course of these 3 races here. 20 minutes each. And, of course, partly reverse grids in race 2 and 3. Now, we've got one of the geodesic cars there with broken suspension going slow on the grass. That's another car out of the race here with just a few minutes done. I didn't quite pick the number on it, which it was. I think it's Hack Ask is who's towing back to pit lane. What a pity. Let's see what happened.
So this is down at Interlagos, and I believe that is with Matt Elmore. 2 of them together into the wall. Bonnet goes flying as well, and yeah, just so he got distracted, did Hacken, by the car in front of him having to compromise his exit, and was coming in a bit tighter to give space, and fortunately for him, Matt Elmore was there. They make contact into the wall.
Yeah, that was unfortunate, but it can happen when we've got a 40-car grid and such a tight pace between our drivers. It really is easy to get involved in incidents like that, but both drivers biting the dust there and back in the pit lane waiting to get their fast repair. A big move up the inside there from the SimLab car of, that's the 52 of Spencer McCarthy, who, shall we say, he made himself unpopular last week, Paul? Would that be fair?
It's Jamie Rushworth.
Oh, there we go.
But Spencer McCarthy did make himself unpopular. Yes, he did end up with a penalty. But yeah, Jamie Rushworth trying to make the move. And the thing is, he hasn't been able to make that move. And coming up right behind him, Harry Fox is sniffing an opportunity. And now Fox has been compromised. Here comes the DCW racing driver of Stuart Bickley.
Yeah, absolutely. McCarthy just a couple of spots ahead of him in the geodesic car. Also, who did serve a penalty as well. But yeah, Harry Fox under fire here as Ben Gregory goes for a move there in the boosted Hyundai Veloster, of course, AM champion in last season. But hasn't quite gone his way this season, unfortunately, for Ben, in the always very brightly coloured boosted machine. And he's going to have a look up the inside there on Nick Clibbins. Can't quite get the job just done, and Clibbins takes the place back.
Certainly does. So Nick having to hang on for the time being in that iRace. The iRace team, they've been rather unfortunate all season. Every time we seem to see them, they always seem to have some sort of incident. Ross McFarlane to the inside. It's decided now's the time to make the move for the lead, but it doesn't work this time.
And now McFarlane comes under pressure here from Corentin Guinness when the SMRC car with the green capped mirrors, and we ride with Corentin Guinness now right on the tail of Ross McFarlane in that Pure Sims Hyundai Elantra. And look at Guinness, he's going to try and have a pop here into Interlagos. Oh, a little bit of contact there as they come around that double left-hander. And Wojciech Savinovic, he's there to pounce at any given opportunity. And this battling between Guinness and McFarlane as Guinness squeezes McFarlane right to the inside, then gives him a bit of room, then it closes back up again. Such is the nature of this circuit. This is dreamland for Kieran Harrison. And then Guinness goes for the wide line to try and cut back and sit on the shoulder there of McFarlane. And McFarlane, he's wise to that and closes the door off, holds on to second, but Harrison's got three quarters of a second in hand already.
Closes the door, he slammed it in his face, is what he did. I've not seen a chop across the nose that hard for a long time, but yeah, McFarlane going for that move in the turn one, he saw the opportunity, got a good run out of this corner, Junsao, got the slipstream, saw the opportunity, but the problem with this track is that if you go inside into turn one, you're compromised on the exit of through turn two, Turn 3 you get the inside, but you're giving other people behind you a run, and when you're in a close pack like that, you can easily get freight trained.
Yeah, it's a really tactical circuit here at Interlagos. Sometimes you have to put your car in a position that doesn't initially look like the way to go, but it comes back to you 3 corners later. It's a real thinking circuit, and well, we know that touring cars, it's a fine line between bare knuckle boxing and chess. And it's just with this, I always find race 1 is more towards chess, and race 2 and 3 is definitely further towards the bare knuckle boxing when we reverse the grids in race 2 and 3.
Peter, have you ever seen the sport of chess boxing?
I've seen someone in a pub try to take someone's eye out with a bishop before.
No,
not an actual bishop, like a bishop chess piece.
There is a sport where they play chess and then have a round of boxing, and then they carry on with the chess, have another round of boxing. Seriously.
Really? Wow.
Yes.
Wow. I always say that's what Legends racing is like. But it's a combination between chess and bare knuckle boxing. You've got to be very clever, but also very aggressive as well. Well, there we go. It's been an educational broadcast here on RaceSpotTV so far, certainly for me anyway. Kieran Harrison still holds that 3/4 of a second advantage, while McFarlane is under heavy fire from Corentin Guinness, and then Savinovic and Jack Sedgwick are just sort of swirling in the background, keeping an eye on proceedings, ready to pick up any scrap. And I tell you what, for SimRC having strength in numbers up there, it helps in the teams championship, but it helps in the drivers as well, Paul, because McFarlane, he is all out on his own island here, having to fight 2 cars at once.
Yeah, and it's so difficult when you've got teammates that are ganging up against you. It really does just compromise you, because you're constantly looking forward but also looking backward as well. So it really does have to make you, forces you to think about what you're going to be doing. So yeah, definitely those Ross McFarlane's in that tricky spot where it might be best just try to hang on to second place, but for his championship's sake, he needs to move forward and outscore Kieran Harrison in these events.
He does. He really does. We know that Kieran Harrison has missed a round. There is a drop score. However, if your drop score is a 0, you are at a disadvantage compared to someone who has actually not missed a round. So that's worth bearing in mind. As big move going on there. The number 58 car. That is Pete Newman there, getting moved on there by Slavomir Jaworski.
Yeah, Pete just getting himself a slowdown penalty, and here's a replay that we're looking at of Pete. So is this where he got his slowdown penalty? No, it doesn't look like it. Oh no, yes it is. There you see him. He pulls over to the side, and yeah, it's. I wonder if he went a little bit too far wide on the entry into Junsao. I mean, if all the drivers just actually obeyed to the track limits and stayed within the white lines, they wouldn't get any slowdown penalties. Oh, that was a bit rude.
Oh, yes, and the flash of the lights in anger, it's futile. But let's have another look at this one. So it's one of the DCW racing car. Now, does that DCW racing car light the front wheels up on the grass?
No, I think he's just so concentrating on the car in front, trying to get space, and he's not paid attention to what's alongside him, and Clibbins is the innocent party there.
Yeah, Clibbins, certainly the car that came off far, far worse, ploughed into the barrier. That was not very nice at all. I believe that was James Parker in the one of many DCW racing cars. A team that are very present in the World Sim Racing paddock, both here in the World Touring Car Championship, but also in the World GT Championship on Monday nights. And always fun to watch. And certainly got the brightest team gear. They've got yellow and blue gloves from our sponsors 3M as well. So they've got colour-coordinated gloves, as all top teams should have from 3M.
I see, that's where I may be going wrong. That's where I may be losing 2/10, isn't it, with the not having the colour-coordinated gloves.
Well, you get yourself some new gloves from 3M, Paul, and that sneezing tactic, that's got you half a second in.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, and get some race boots as well from 3M.
Oh yeah, yeah. A friend of mine who used to be a rally co-driver has got many spare boots, and I must ask him what his shoe size is, because I think I need them for the sim, for the full no gear, all the gear and no idea effect. Tell you who does have a good idea is Kieran Harrison. He's extended his advantage to just around a second now, so it's gone up by about a quarter of a second over the last few laps. Meanwhile, Ross McFarlane in second is really, his attention is definitely in the rear view mirror rather than the windscreen, because he's having to defend really hard here from Corentin Guinness. Goes to the inside firmly at Jing Sao, moves over again, gives a car's width though, so that's all fair and fine there, as well as, oh, Guinness runs a little bit wide there coming through Decido del Lago. And up they go, up the hill towards Ferradura, and looks like Guinness is going to get this a double right-hander here as well. He's been given the space by McFarlane going a little bit wide, and here comes Savidovic. Savidovic is going to have a dive then on McFarlane. McFarlane does have the inside for the following corner though, but Savidovic is going to try and tough it out. Does he? No. McFarlane takes third place back, but Guinness up to second. Good stuff.
What did I say? Come towards the end of the race, and McFarlane seems to just not have the edge of pace compared to the Sim RC drivers, and we're seeing it there. I tell you what, that is a very brave move that Guinness made there, because to go all the way around the outside of the Decido del Lago, you can do it there because you carry the speed around that corner, and you carry the speed out to turn 5, up the hill towards Ferradura, and that's what gives you the inside line for that double apex right-hander. There's one of your lap traffic just getting out of the way. That's Matt Elmore getting out of the way of Kieran Harrison right now. So a bit of lap traffic for Harrison to work his way through, but so far so good. They're behaving with him.
Yeah, so far so good indeed. 6 minutes to go here then in this opening encounter here in the World Touring Car Series. Update on the AM class. Dan Martin leads in 12th position overall, just a couple of positions ahead of a phalanx of AM drivers led by Sam Smith in 15th overall, followed by Matthias Penttila, Richard Simner and Craig Williams. So great effort from Richard Simner, not feeling well at all, and he's fighting away there. In fact, he's got the second place in the AM Championship. Craig Williams right on his bumper, and in fact he's going to try and make a move here. No, decides better of it.
That Audi, though, is a bit of a tank, isn't it? And he'll be trying to move his way through, and here he comes. Germany's finest, trying to go against Hyundai Motorsport's finest, which, if I'm not wrong, is based in Germany.
Well, the Hyundai Motorsports is, yeah, indeed, in Altenau. Altenau in Germany. It's the Hyundai Motorsports, but of course the brand is Korean. Of course, and goodness me, hasn't Motorsport brought their sporting credentials of their brand up a whole new level? You look at the road cars they produce now; they're fantastic.
Well, I mean, you just have to look at Toyota. Their motorsport outfit was a lot of time spent out there in Germany as well. I think back to the Toyota rally cars of the early 90s to mid 90s, you know, with the classic Castrol livery. So, you know, that's what I think of when I think of, you know, sort of how motorsport seems to centre on certain areas. I mean, you look at Motorsport Valley in the UK, you've got Germany has got a big heartland of motorsport. There are these real centres of specialist engineers out there that these manufacturers like to focus themselves on.
Indeed, and of course nowadays Toyota, they have their rally base in Finland, which is a pretty good place to start for rally knowledge, and quite handy if you need to go and close off a forest road for some testing as well. They're quite receptive to that kind of request in Finland. Kieran Harrison is dominating this race, 1.6 seconds to the good. As soon as he got that away through that opening sector, he had Ross McFarlane behind him, but as soon as Guinness made McFarlane's life difficult, Harrison spotted his opportunity and really pushed on. And Paul, your comment on the tyre wear is really spot on, I think, because it looks like McFarlane is really struggling with grip, particularly front grip. He's understeering a lot, struggling to get the power down, where it doesn't seem like Guinness has such an issue.
I mean, you look at this circuit, you've got quite a few long radius corners around this track, and then you've got that middle section which is quite low speed, so you've got heavy braking zones into low speed corners, so you're then having to power your way out of those corners. That's putting a lot of temperature and force through those front tyres, and it really does affect you towards the end of the race. Now, this race is in sim. We're currently at 3 minutes past 8 in the morning in sim. It's only going to get hotter as this track temperature, and this track can get some ridiculously high temperatures.
Yes, it can, and you really feel it as well. When those track temperatures build, the surface gets so greasy. It's huge contact there between Oyster and Hereford. And Norbert Leitner, they're fighting over 10th position. They've got Dan Martin right behind them, but they clang wheels going up the straight.
Sedgwick's
Cedric
down.
tumbled down the order.
Yeah, he was behind Savinovic. I wonder if he's got a slow down penalty or something, because he's dropped from 5th all the way down to 9th.
Oof, that's almost... Yeah, that's a real issue there. Oh, big slide there. Huge slide for Norbert Leitner. Loses it under braking. Through goes Hereford. Through goes Sebula. Through goes Dan Martin as well, who almost hits the wall going so far to the inside. But then Dan Martin lets them go again.
He got into the back of him.
Okay.
I think that's very, very sensible driving from Dan there. And it's a mistake. Oh. It's a mistake onto the grass. And that's why Sedgwick dropped down the order. But yeah, Martin got into the back of Leitner. Oh, big drift. Well done, Jack, for getting that one back on. But yeah, Dan Martin just got into the back of Leitner. That's what caused him to lose control. And very gentlemanly driving from Dan to give the place back. Here's a look again.
Yeah, great spot there, Paul. I did think it was a slightly unusual incident for Norbert Leitner, but yeah, just the lightest tap and lets them through, and that's very gentlemanly. But a minute and 15 seconds to go. This will be our last lap starting now. Barney the flagman waves the white flag, signalling 1 lap to go. McFarlane's fighting on. He's not done yet. He's going to try and do something to get by Guinness, but Guinness tries to cover the line. Can he get it stopped? Oh, they touch ever so slightly. McFarlane has to get on the anchors then, and Savinovic is going to come and try and get involved in this fight as well. Thrilling stuff here, this last lap here at Interlagos. Just a quick point there, Paul, and Jack Sedgwick. That's exactly the same mistake that Neil Stevenson made on lap 1, just touching that grass.
Yeah, I think Ross made the move at the wrong place, I feel. It compromised him through Curva de Sol and didn't give him the opportunity down into Descida del Lago. But I can understand why you'd make the attempt. You know, it's the start of the last lap. You need to make a move. He's really running out of places to make that move now.
Yeah, he is. Well, let's see if Ross McFarlane can create anything here to get a move done, as the battle rages on for 10th as well, with Oysten Hereford leading Jaroslav Sebula. McFarlane trying to find a way, but Guinness has got it covered for now as well. McFarlane right in the bootlet of Corrington Guinness, but we know how experienced Guinness is. We know how fast he is. Miles up the road, it's Kieran Harrison who's going to score another win to continue his run as the driver with the most victories, race victories in this season. And it's going to be Kieran Harrison for Sim RC who wins here at Interlagos. But his teammate, Corrington Guinness, holds off the charge from Ross McFarlane just as they come over the line neck and neck. And Wojciech Savinovic coming home in 4th place. Good racing there at the front of the field. Properly professional stuff as we come to expect at the front here. David Baker coming home in 6th. Good run from him. Sam Blees 7th. Rodriguez in 8th, Cedric in 9th, and Oysten Hereford getting home in 10th place, with Dan Martin winning the armed class.
David Baker has to finish in 6th place, doesn't he?
Okay, yes, it's the rules. It's in the rule book.
Yeah, he's got to finish 6th. We'll spin the reverse grid wheel and then get you your results and find out who is on pole position.
Oh, 13? That's
well,
it's too close to call.
It is too close to call. I've never seen that before.
Oh, we might need a respin.
Our producer. Oh, there
60.
we go. It's finally gone off.
Well, Oystein Hereford is just, you can almost hear him groaning, but Matthias Penttila is just leapt with joy because that would put him on pole position. But let's get a look at our results then and see how they line up then for the second race of the day. So Kieran Harrison then finishes as your winner by 1.2 seconds from Corentin Guinness, with Ross McFarlane rounding out the podium. Then it was Wojciech Savinovich and Terje Flatten with David Baker, Sam Blees, Esteban Rodriguez, Jack Zejic and Oystein Hereford rounding out the top 10. Then it was Jaroslav Sebula, Norbert Leitner and Dan Martin, the winner in the AM class, with Szilard Nagy 14th, Sam Smith 15th and Matthias Penttila in the Honda will be your pole sitter for race number 2. Craig Williams just misses out on that reverse grid pole. He will start from 17th. Then it's Pete Newman, Stephen Walker and Spencer McCarthy. Great run from Spencer McCarthy from deep in the pack. 21st was Slavomir Jaworski, followed by Richard Simner, Tom Stanley, Andreas Gilman, Mike Pollard, Jamie Rushworth, Patrick Faulkner, Al Lamb, McCain, Chris Chariton and Harry Fox. 31st was Damon Mulqueen with Stuart Bickley 32nd. Then Ben Gregory making up a few spots from 40th on the grid. James Parker in 34th. Then it was Rob Sutherland, Scott Malcolm, Matt Elmore, Nick Clibbins, Hakan Ask and Neil Stevenson not making it to the flag. Well, a pretty routine race there for Kieran Harrison, it must be said, Paul. Qualified the car on pole, that was crucial, got the getaway, and he just never looked back there.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a little bit of pressure in those opening couple of laps, but once he was able to deal with Ross, he was just able to pull away and keep the pace up all the way through that race. Really good result for Kieran, and Corentin Guinness took his opportunity and certainly got himself a great bunch of points for second place. Ross McFarlane, I think, will be just ruining his opportunities, or lack of, because they didn't give him much opportunities out there, did they?
How much? No, absolutely. Simmer's executed the perfect job there in every way. Is Ross McFarlane missing a bit of support up front, would you say?
Potentially. I think, as much as David Baker is quick, and he is a quick driver, he's consistent, is David. He's one of those that is quick and consistent, but I think he just lacks that tenth of a second that can make the difference between those truly sensational drivers and the really quick drivers. And I think what we're seeing there is Kieran Harrison, Corentin Guinness being that sensational drivers, just being able to put it in lap after lap after lap and look after the tyres at the same time as well.
I mean, looking ahead to race 2, we're going to get a higher track temperature. We're going to have our reverse grid. What are we looking at for this race 2, Paul? What are the challenges going to be?
Looking after your front tyres. I think that's whenever I took part in this series and we came to a circuit like this, you always knew those afternoon or even late afternoon sessions, you're going to be seeing the track temperatures really cranked up, just purely the nature of the circuit. And it's all about tyre preservation. If you can look after your tyres in the early going, you can really pick up some time towards the end of the race. The problem is, when the series is so close as they are out there, if you look after your tyres too much and too well at the start of the race, you end up with a big gap in front of you, and you're not able to make up that difference in you looking after the tyres.
And kind of for looking after the tyres, without giving away all of your secrets, Paul, what are the what are the kind of do's and don'ts on that in terms of looking after the tyres? Because we see in the World GT Championship, Ross McFarlane, for example, being a bit of a master of that. He's struggling a bit more in these front-wheel drive touring cars this season for whatever reason that is. But what are the main do's and don'ts of how you keep those tyres in their window as such?
Being patient with the throttle is a really key thing. So on corner exit, especially through the slower corners in the middle sector of this lap, you've got to be patient with your throttle. Don't spin up your tyres. Don't put any wheel slip into those front tyres, or else you will build up tyre temperature too quickly in this race. Also on your brakes as well, don't just be absolutely jamming on your brakes and putting a ton of heat through those tyres as well. And also not being as aggressive with your camber settings on the front as well. Just relax the camber a little bit to help you spread the load across the tyre a bit more than you would be at these tracks when it's cooler temperatures. So those are a few of the things. It's not everything, but there's a few of the things that the drivers will be doing.
Well, we hope you're enjoying the coverage of round 8 of the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV, and race 2 is coming up in just a moment, but we're going to step away for just a little moment and we'll be back in just a little moment. Thank you. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV, and a huge thank you to our sponsors Butt Kicker and Free M. It's great to have them on board for another season here in the World Touring Car Series. Race 2 coming up, and Matthias Penttila, we've got him back in the championship now, Paul, in the little Honda, and starting from pole position, a great opportunity for him.
And we saw how well that Honda went last week, didn't we, at Suzuka? So it's a tremendous opportunity once again. We'll get to see whether that balance and performance adjustment has helped both the Audi and the Honda around this circuit here today. We didn't get to see that in race 1, but race 2 now, I mean, already I could tell you it's going to be a bit toasty for the drivers, because conditions out there, if we do get it up on screen, you're looking at 57 degrees Celsius on the track.
My word, that's some of the highest you'll ever see here on the iRacing platform. 57 degrees Celsius track temperature. Wow. So that is going to be so difficult to keep these tyres in, and it's going to make the tyres feel like jelly and the track feel like an ice rink, surely.
Oh yeah, it's so slick out there when the track gets this hot, and after 5 minutes you'll just be wishing to see the checkered flag in this race, because it is just so bad. In fact, for races like this, when I used to run in the championship with Tyler Maxson, we actually had a dedicated setup for hot weather for places like this in the Hungaroring, and it didn't make a slightest jot of difference because it was just that hot. Yeah,
it's. I did remember once being at Rally Islas Canarias and one of the tyre engineers took a temperature reading of the road at the end of the rally stage, and it was 54 degrees Celsius on the track, which I thought was pretty balmy. So this will be tough for the drivers. We actually saw 40 at Knockhill last season. Don't laugh, but it's true. It's true. 40 degrees track temperature at Knockhill. It is possible.
So you had, what, 54 degrees Celsius on one rally that you won. The last rally I was on, it must have been about 2 degrees Celsius. It was the Rally Great Britain back when they used to have that, back in 2016. Was the last rally I went on. So it's been a while, actually.
Very, very cold. Yeah, it's more. I always find with rallying, you always seem to get weather extremes. It's never just sort of balmy and in the middle as well.
I have had it once because I used to be a rally marshal, and we were at Croft Circuit on the, get this, Jack Frost stages in the middle of January. It was just pouring with rain all day. And we were on a service entry control, time control, so we weren't even out on the stage. We were just there, come along, give them the time that they have to be out of service, and then that was it. And we were doing that all day, and we got into the car, and the heater had packed up.
Oh, no. No, that's a disaster.
Oh yeah, it wasn't fun that day at all. I think we had a sense of humour failure.
Yes. Yes, well, that's Croft for you. You should have come to Knockhill. I'm sure it was very nice up there on that same day.
I'll make it up to Knockhill one of these days.
Yeah, your decks and faders and microphone awaits you.
I don't think Knockhill awaits me, however.
I think a bit of variety of accent on Knockhill FM. I think will do us the world of good. I think.
We will see about that.
Well, the driver's out at the moment in their practice session, and this is going to be important, Paul. You know, although it's only a handful of minutes out on track, very important just to get a feel of what that surface is like, because it's evolved quite a lot since race 1.
Yeah, and you've got to take advantage of this as much as possible. You know, they won't have practiced in temperatures of this hot. Not by choice anyway, and these drivers just need to get that feel, as you say, of just a feel of how slippy the track is, because it is super slippy out there for the drivers. Opening lap, 2 laps, it won't feel too bad, but then after that, when the tyres really come into temperature, they'll be like, oh, it feels good, it feels good, it feels awful.
Yeah, it's gonna feel pretty awful by the end of this race, that is for sure. Ben Gregory on screen. He's managed to get up from 40th to 33rd in race number 1. How much progress can he make in race 2? He'll be hoping to try and catch the reverse grid for race 3 and give him a good run at a result in race 3. Try and score some good points towards his championship. Wojciech Savidovic is always present at the front of the field. It was in the fight for those top positions there, just missed out on a podium and no more, but he's always a threat and always likes to get his elbows out as well. A proper touring car racer through and through is Wojciech.
He really had a handle for the Kia back when we used to race the Kia as a touring car, until we did get these touring cars into iRacing, but he was always the one to try and beat, and he would just win championship after championship in that Kia. In the touring cars though, I think he's found his match now.
Although he has got quicker now that we've brought another Korean manufacturer into the fray though as well. He's definitely got a thing for Korean race cars, that's for sure. And they're all on a 7-year warranty. You can't argue than that. You can't say fairer than that.
Certainly can't. It's a good warranty at that.
Absolutely. Or 100,000 miles, whichever comes first. Right, before we talk any more about the benefits of Korean car ownership, let's look at the grid. Matthias Pensla and Sam Smith start on the front row, with Szilard Nagy, Dan Martin, Norbert Leitner and Jaroslav Sebula completing the top 6. Then it's Oisin Herford, Jack Cedric, Esteban Rodriguez, Sam Blease, David Baker and Terje Flatten. Then in 13th it's Wojciech Savidovic, Ross McFarlane, Corentin Guinness, Kieran Harrison, Craig Williams and Pete Newman. Then in 19th, Stephen Walker, followed by Slavomir Jaworski, Richard Simpner, Tom Stanley, Andreas Gilman and Mike Pollard. Then it's Paddy Faulkner, Alan McCain, Chris Chatterton, Harry Fox, Damon Mulqueen and Stuart Bickley. 31st is Ben Gregory, then it's James Parker, Rob Sutherland, Scott Malcolm, Matt Elmore and Nick Clibbins. 37th is Hack and Ask, with Neil Stevenson, Spencer McCarthy and Jamie Rushworth rounding out the 40-car field. So the drivers lined up, ready to go. Matthias Penttila on the pole position, ready to get going. And this is going to be a tricky one going down into turn one. The pace order really mixed up quite a lot more than it was in race number one. Of course, race number one starting in qualifying order. Here the 16 top cars from the first race reversed to give us our grid for race number two. Thoughts ahead of this one, Paul?
I think Penttila, if he can get a good start, he'll be in a good position, but you've got to look out for Dan Martin and Suzanne Nagy as well on that second row of the grid. I think they could do some stuff. And Norbert Leitner, he could be a shout as well.
Yes, he certainly could. Yeah, Norbert Leitner starting from 5th position. So, yeah, very good opportunity for him. The revs come up. Ready to go then for race 2 here in round 8 of the World Touring Car Series. Off they go, unleashing 350 horsepower through the front wheels, and already there's contact as the Impulse Racing cars try to make their way to the front side by side into turn 1. But it's a perfect getaway from Matthias Penttila and the little Honda. He's got a great getaway and managed to put some time into those chasing behind them straight away. Dan Martin moves up into second position past Salid Narji and Norbert Leitner in there also.
As a really good launch. It was such a slow start then from the front row for Smith as we go down to see the Interlagos for the first time. But yeah, Penttila, you can't really ask for a better start than that one. What a launch. And that second row, Dan Martin and Norbert Leitner got a good launch as well, although Leitner getting the shoulders out very early on.
Yeah, Norbert Leitner certainly making his presence known alongside his teammate Szilard Nagy, but Dan Martin really toughing it out as well. A great opportunity for Dan Martin to continue building his lead in the AM class. Remember, you score points based on your overall position, not your class position. So he's in a great spot right now. It's big wreck behind. Several cars off. Big damage to one of the SimLab cars as well. We stay green for now, but a little bit more fractures in this opening lap.
It was Rushworth. Rushworth's involved in that one. Clibbins as well. I think as well that Parker was involved in that one. So multiple cars. Spencer McCarthy as well taking a tour back to pit lane.
Well, Spencer McCarthy's first race went very well. Second race not so, but it's Matthias Penttila who leads after lap 1 here at Interlagos from Norbert Leitner, who's pushed his way through into second position. He's got past Dan Martin. Dan Martin's race isn't necessarily with Norbert Leitner, but he'll be wanting to try and stay up the front for as long as he can. There's a big move from Esteban Rodriguez, 5th in the championship, don't forget. He's up there into 5th place now as well, with Austin Hereford now behind him as well. How are our front runners from race 1 getting on? Ross McFarlane's up to 13th. Harrison moved up a couple of positions to 14th as well. Guinness in 12th, so he's the big winner so far from the front runners in race 1.
Yeah, Guinness has been on a bit of a charge in this open. Here's what happened to Parker. Was helped around. I think it was actually Spencer McCarthy who got into the back of him, and then bang, bang, bang. 4 cars. It's a bit of chess. That's a not chess. That's a snooker trick shot there. But it was McCarthy who got into the back of Parker, and therefore is the downfall of his own demise.
Yeah, that was more like a 9-ball pool break than a snooker shot. That definitely wins the John Virgo Award for this week. So, Jack Sedgwick having to fight his way back through again, of course. He finished 9th in race 1, having been in the fight for the podium. Just a little mistake cost him dearly. And he's into 7th now in this race. So watch out for that Craig setup shot. Hyundai Veloster. Jack Sedgwick, a super quick driver. As wide for Guinness there, and up the inside Goes Yaroslav Sebula, does he? No, not quite. Guinness right up over the edge of the curb, nearly falls off the other side. Just hangs on to it. Tony Dragon there.
Harrison is getting past McFarlane. He's also going to get past Sebula as well. 2 moves in one, and oh, there's a flash of the headlights. I think we can kind of guess that Ross isn't happy with the treatment that he got from Harrison.
Well, it's going to, as we get closer and closer to the end of this championship, it's going to get more and more feisty at the front, and straight away McFarlane gives a little bit of a knowing tap to the rear of Harrison's car to say, yes, I am expressing my displeasure in 2 different ways here. And, well, can he fight back, though? That's the question. Harrison appears to be driving with real purpose here, and he's got the perfect front gunner ahead of him, Corentin Guinness, who could surely carve a path that Harrison could then follow as they make their way up the order. But Pentola still leads then from Leitner, but Leitner is closing the gap. Leitner took 0.8 of a second out of Pentola last time by, so Leitner in second place, looking very threatening here to the red and white Honda of Matthias Pentola.
That Honda has got a really good chassis on it.
It does.
It's good through the twisty stuff, but the problem is, around this track, you need a good bit of speed and top end, and how that Hyundai handles the curbs as well is really, really good, as in fact Leitner's going for the lead in all of this. So we've got moves going all the way through the field, and Leitner is looking keen to get past because he can see in his rear view mirror some of those quick guys catching up.
Yep, he certainly can. Yeah, Pentola is going to have to be really tactical here on how hard he fights Leitner, because he's got Dan Martin right behind there in 3rd place overall. But remember, Pentola's in the AM class, and as is Martin, so that's really who he's got to think about, as well as Leitner using that straight line speed of the Hyundai Elantra to go up to the outside as well, breaking into the Senna S. And Pentola hangs on to it for now. Pentola defending this very nicely, but the more he defends, the more that queue is forming up behind him.
It absolutely is, and you talk about a queue of traffic, that is exactly what he's got right now. It's like a bank holiday Monday here in the UK with a caravan at the front of the queue, but Leitner to the inside, and to see the Interlagos, that's a good move. Nicely done down the inside.
Absolutely clean as a whistle there from Norbert Leitner. Very nice move, and Pentola didn't fight it too hard and actually didn't lose much time at all himself. So good stuff from Pentola as well, keeping it nice and smart and canny in these positions. But there's a mix up there in the order with the Sim RC cars, because Harrison has dropped the place to Sam Blease. So Sam Blease has broken up that Sim RC duo. So great move there from the geodesic Hyundai Elantra driver as well. And I think, Paul, I would have caught Harrison a little bit by surprise, and immediately Blease leaves the door open and Harrison says, you don't need to give me a second invitation. Bosh.
That was a bit rude, wasn't it? Straight into the side. Thank you very much. I'll take that paint swab and get that for my new car. I think that was actually Guinness just moving forward on Sam Blease to try and gain positions that got them between them. But yeah, Harrison, very, how should we say, decisive. And look what's happening. If you get hung out to dry on the outside out of Junsao, you could just get freight trained at this track.
Well, that Hyundai Elantra freight train has not been kind there to Matthias Pentola as Dan Martin goes by, as does Nagy, and then Rodriguez comes in for a bit of fun, as does Cedric. So Pentola, freight trained is exactly the description. It's just gone by in a flash there, and there's more bleeding there for Pentola as he loses a position to Hereford. So Pentola goes from 2nd to 7th in the space of about 500 or 600 metres.
Yeah, it's so difficult. If you end up on that outside going up the hill there, you're just a sitting duck. And oh, look at that, a little bit wide from Rodriguez, trying his best, but Dan Martin slams that door shut. Martin wants the points for his AM championship. The rest of them want to get up with Norbert Leitner, and here comes Jack Sedgwick around the outside. Yeah,
good move then. Can he close it up though? Can Cedric? Yes, he can. Great move there, and that nimble. Oh, big crash. Is that Shadderton?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, huge damage there at the front of that Hyundai. But yeah, great stuff from Cedric using the nimble short wheelbase of the Hyundai Veloster here as well. another good car for this kind of circuit, Paul, where there's lots of changes of direction.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I preferred the Veloster to the Elantra. I prefer just that little bit more of a pointy front end compared to the Elantra, which is a little bit more lazy, but the Elantra's strength is over the curbs, and it really is such a powerful car. And heck and ask is the innocent party and all of that just coming round and all of a sudden gets a face full of Hyundai Elantra, bang, into the reasonably priced Korean car.
Oh dear, good job the panels are cost effective to replace. Problem. Guinness hard on the fence, blown engine, day done. Oh dear, just as quick as that. What happened there to Corentin Guinness?
I think now who is it that's in that? So I think there's been contact between him and the geodesic car. It's on Pentala. He's made the move on Pentala, come in hot. There's the geodesic car, gets into the side of it. It all checks up, and a concertina effect turns Guinness into that barrier.
And ironically, it was Harrison getting hard into the back of Pentala, which then caused that chain effect. But one kind of big racing incident there as well. But that is Guinness out, and that is a huge turn up there. So Ross McFarlane keeps himself out of trouble. He's up into the top 10. Harrison is in 8th, but that is a big turn because Guinness came into this round second in the championship, 54 points in arrears. Harrison was 78 points in arrears. You get 75 for a race win. So, that's big news here in the World Touring Car Series, Paul, with just 4 rounds to go after this.
Yeah, it's a big swing, isn't it? It's time to get Peter's nose swingometer out for that one. That is huge for the championship. Ross McFarlane, he'll be saying, oh well. But the problem is, you get convergence of lines through then. A normal line through turn 1 is to actually take quite a late apex, because you want to be tight to the left to open up the right-hander through the centre S to get you the quickest line through Curva de Sol. And with you taking that late apex, if somebody comes down the inside, they think that they've got the space and they've got the move done, and you're coming across on them. So it's happened to me a few times in this series, in previous seasons, and it's happened again tonight.
Yeah, it has. The AM class, well, Dan Martin is making full use of that reverse grid position, and he is in 2nd place overall, and 8 spots ahead of Matthias Pentala, who, it must be said, is not in the championship running. Neither is Sam Smith, who sits 3rd in the AM class, 12th overall. The nearest one is Craig Williams. He's back in 16th, so there's a huge points delta between Dan Martin and Craig Williams right now. So Martin again firming up his position in the AM class, but he's got to stay sharp though, because he's got some real piranhas circling behind him, led by Esteban Rodriguez. Then it's Jack Cedric right there behind them, and Oyston Hereford. All of them will take no prisoners on their way through, if they can get through.
I'll tell you what, Impulse Racing must be absolutely loving this with Leitner out at the front and a nice 2.3 second lead. Dan Martin, their RD Sim Sport, I know their team boss will be delighted getting all the airtime for the car right now, but he's going heavily defensive here, right up to the pit wall. Rodriguez goes, fine, okay, I'll go the long way around. It is a legitimate strategy into turn 1, going the long way around. It gives you the inside for 2, a little bit of a squeeze. Now, inside for Curva de Sol, and Jack Cedric says, thanks very much, mate.
Yeah, Rodriguez didn't quite see that one coming, did he? He nearly had the job done on Dan Martin, and then has to drop down a position because Cedric had watched it all unfold as well. And Cedric, if he can be deep enough on the brakes here, he can get that move done on Dan Martin, and he does. So Dan Martin loses the position and runs a little bit wide. And Rodriguez is going to try and take the tight line and try and get by the RD Sim Sport driver. And this is where Dan Martin's got to be super careful, because he's got a great spot in the AM class. Yes, he wants to score as many points as possible, but you do not want to get involved in a fist fight with these pro guys, because they will take absolutely no prisoners at all. As Harry Fox, bang! Oh, that's a full-on trick shot there. Oh dear, that was a unceremonious dumping.
I was about to say unceremonious dump right there. It was a bit of a dive bomb, a little bit of a missed-timed move. Dan Martin's held on to 4th place ahead of Oysen Hereford, so Hereford's going to have to just be patient. But Nagy, who, of course, don't forget, started on the 2nd row of the grid with Dan Martin, fell back a little bit in the early going, but he's trying to make a comeback here. But the problem for him is he's looking in his rear-view mirror now. He's got Kieran Harrison behind him.
Yeah, and that's got to be a concern as well. We've seen how fast Kieran's been today, pole sitter and runaway winner in race 1, so you have to argue that he's got the best pace. His best lap at the moment, a 1:43.5. That's half a second quicker than Nagy's best. A huge move there from Terrier Flatten in the geodesic car, the black and gold geodesic car, gets past Dan Martin, but I think, Paul, Dan Martin is surviving this onslaught pretty well.
No, I was actually pointing out it was Flatten who made a big move on Harrison down in towards turn 1.
Oh.
I wonder, it's getting very dicey in front of these as well. 3 cars, by 3 cars. Harrison does hold on, and Ross McFarlane's trying to take advantage as well. Meanwhile, Hereford does hold on to that 4th place, but Flatten, he is giving as good as he gets out there.
You bet he is right there in the fight between Harrison and McFarlane. You're right, it was Hereford, his teammate, making the move on Dan Martin. So the geodesic team having a good run tonight as well, with just under 5 minutes to go in this 2nd race of the day. Cedric 2.8 seconds back on Leitner, but 0.6 of a second slower than Leitner last time by. Leitner is absolutely flying right now with a 1:43.6, his best lap time at this stage, which he set on the last lap. So Leitner making full advantage of his breakaway.
And the thing is, for Leitner, he's been able to control himself at the front. He's been able to control his pace, look after his tyres, pulled out that gap because of others battling away, and it just allows for him to then just be able to push on towards the end of the race. Whereas Cedric, Rodriguez, Hereford, they've all been fighting. They've had to fight all the way through. They've not been able to save their tyres to the same extent as your race leader. So, this is really showing towards the end of the race here.
So Sam Smith trying to hold off Sam Blease there, but can't quite do it. And number 81, Jaroslav Sebula is going to try and make a move then as well. So Sam Smith's going to have to try and tough it out. Can he do so? Yeah, almost. Yes, he can. Just about holds off the advance of Sebula. But David Baker there in car number 6 for Puresim's going to have a look, as is Craig Williams in the red and blue Craig Setup Shop Audi as they come into Interlagos. 3.5 minutes to go then. Oh, bit of contact there between Sebula and David Baker. But Leitner continues to hold that strong advantage up at the front. Cedric set a very, very nice lap time last time by, 1:43.5. And he holds a good gap back to Esteban Rodriguez, also in 3rd. So just sort of solidifying at the front now as well.
Oh, Baker, he's in that awful position where he finished 6th in race number 1. He's not been able to move forward. In fact, he's lost places in this race as David, so something's happened to him out there during this race. Hereford, it's worth pointing out, back, as you can see on the left-hand side of your screen, he's back to where he started. So Oysen Hereford is not really been able to make any moves forward in this one, but of course that's in terms of the pro standings, is those positions. Hereford does actually gain 3 places overall in this race. But there's Dan Martin, he's still keeping the pressure on. We should have 2 laps to go here.
Tell you what, Dan Martin, he is the respecter of no ego, isn't he? He's just fighting tooth and nail with these pro guys, trying to maintain as best an overall position as he can, showing the confidence he has in that number 70 Hyundai Elantra for RD Simsport. And Hereford having to go very much on the defensive here as well to try and hold off Martin. Martin pops to the outside then. Hereford gives him space as well, and Martin trying to converge now up the inside on Hereford, really putting him under a lot of pressure. But Hereford's got a big queue behind them, led by Martin. Then it's Nagy, Harrison in there as well, as is Ross McFarlane. Now, can McFarlane make a move on Harrison? He popped to the inside there to have a look, and in fact, he's right on the back of that Sim RC driver of Harrison.
Oh, this is all getting a bit tight. Yeah, a bit of a concertina effect there. Harrison is there. He's going to have a difficult task to get back past Nagy, as Flatten's actually dropped down the order. He must have got caught out wide, but still, these cars, they're all together, and it's all to decide who's going to be finishing up there, not in the podium spots, but certainly near those podium spots. So this is intense racing now between these drivers.
Intense it is, yes, very intense indeed. As we come up to start the final lap then as well, Norbert Leitner leads by 2.7 seconds. That's a pretty comfy advantage to have with 1 lap to go. Cedric, a good drive from him to come back up to second position. Esteban Rodriguez with the last spot on the podium, still just in touch with Cedric there. Then it's the freight train, led by Orson Hereford, Dan Martin, Szilard Nagy and Harrison, and McFarlane's trading places now as well. And Harrison, he looks to the inside as well. Harrison gives him a bit of room, opens up the steering, gets the power down as well. And Wojciech Savidovic, he's in there in the fight as well. He's not in the top 5 in the championship, but in this second part of the season, he's seemed to be involved in all of these battles for position. And Harrison and McFarlane still duking it out now as well. McFarlane on the outside. Is he going to hung out to dry? He's put out onto the paint. Over the grass he goes as well. And Savidovic takes them both.
Oh, nicely done, Wojciech. Nicely done. Wait, that's the experience right there. Waits for the others to trip over each other. Ross once again giving Harrison a terse flash of the headlights. He's not happy, and he's going to give him a bit of a bump here as well into the right-hander. But yeah, McFarlane, he must be... It's so difficult to make that move around the outside because of that fact he can get run out wide and run off the road. Is it legal? Well, no, not really, but it's touring car racing, so there's going to be a bit of rubbing.
Yeah, and you have to accept the risk. If you put it out there wide on the outside, you can get shown the cold shoulder. And like you say, is it on the rules? Debatable, but yeah, that's certainly what happened there. Harrison getting his elbows out, but what a drive from the Hungarian. Norbert Leitner wins by a good distance for Impulse Racing here in the World Touring Car Series. What a great drive from Norby. Second place, Jack Cedric in the Veloster. Then it's Esteban Rodriguez rounding out the podium. Austin Hereford hangs on to 4th. Dan Martin 5th overall. And yet another AM win. He is dominating that class.
He's having a really good time of it, isn't he, is Dan? And I think we've had a driver retire on the last lap. Patrick Faulkner showing us not finishing that last lap. So he's had something happen to him out there at the end. But yeah, it's really intense racing out there. Loads of fun for us to watch. Really, really intriguing to see who gets the final reverse grid.
Well, let's see. And it's going to be 10. So quite a short reverse grid. That puts Terje Flaten on pole position. It also puts Ross McFarlane on the front row of the grid. Well, well, well. What turn up that is. So race 3 is going to be a proper thriller with some fast drivers at the front of the field. Just the last few cars coming over the line before we can reveal our final classification. And well, pretty bruising encounter there, Paul. A few drivers getting shown the hard shoulder there.
Yes, there certainly were, and plenty of paint swapped, and I'm sure a few insurance details having to be handed over amongst themselves. Here we go, the final 2 coming across the line there to give us those final results. But yeah, there was plenty of rubbing, but rubbing is racing. But a really small reverse grid, that's going to make it intriguing for that final round.
It is, and 2 of our championship contenders are going to be right in there with Kieran Harrison and Ross McFarlane. Your winner, Norbert Leitner, by 2.8 seconds from Jack Cedric, and Esteban Rodriguez rounding out the podium. Austin Hereford's 4th, with your AM Class winner, Dan Martin, holding on for 5th. A great drive from him. Szilard Nagy was 6th. Wojciech Savidovic right in there in the fight, beating both of the championship contenders to the punch there, with Kieran Harrison in 8th. Ross McFarlane 9th, and Terje Flaten, your pole sitter, for race number 3. Matthias Pentsla came home in 11th, second in the AM class. Sam Blease was 12th, then Sam Smith, David Baker and Jaroslav Sebula round out your top 15. Craig Williams came home 16th, followed by Pete Newman, Stephen Walker, Tom Stanley and Damon McQueen. 21st was Andreas Gilman, with Richard Sindler home in 22nd, then Mike Pollard, Stuart Bickley, Alain McCain, Slavomir Jaworski, Ben Gregory, Scott Malcolm, Neil Stevenson and Jamie Rushworth. Then in 31st was Rob Sutherland, with Matt Elmore, James Parker, Nick Clibbins rounding out those who finished on the lead lap, and those off the lead lap, Paddy Faulkner, Harry Fox, Cornington Guinness, Hakan Ass, Chris Chatterton and Spencer McCarthy. So Paddy Faulkner there getting clipped on the last lap out of contention, and oh dear.
That was Ben Gregory, wasn't it? Who got into the back of him.
Let's get a look. This would be a good angle, just sort of.
Yeah, it's. See, the problem is you've got a car coming across the line of the one behind, coming into a braking zone, but it is also up to the car behind to try and avoid any instant. But he's going to have very little time to react here. But yeah, it's a very late and then onto the brakes.
If you can't just carve across somebody and hit the brakes. That's I don't think you can put that on Ben, to be honest. What's he supposed to do?
I think it is a racing incident. Is that? Yeah. It's just one of those things, unfortunately. But it's a little bit silly to trip over each other at the end of the race.
Yeah, you've got to think that Paddy Faulkner, he kind of put himself in that position a little bit. Trying to get that ideal line out of there as well, and thought, I've got a break, and didn't get the move done in enough time. But that's a pity to throw away a result there at the end. I mean, race 3, it often depends on the way the reverse grid shuffles out. Sometimes we see our championship leaders fighting for the overall win there. Sometimes we don't. I think we can be pretty sure that we're going to see these championship leaders in Harrison, McFarlane, etc. really fighting for that overall win here in this last race.
I think if Harrison beats Ross McFarlane here in this final race, I think Ross is emotionally broken. I think he is mentally defeated in terms of the championship. Harrison has had his card every single time. It's not like, you've drawn 20, I've drawn 21. Every single time he has been able to get one over Ross as Kieran, and I think it's getting to Ross a little bit, personally.
I think that's a fair point, Paul, because you look at the result sheets, you look at that, Harrison's won the most races by a country mile, even having missed three races, of course, missing a race meeting. No, I think there's a lot to be said in that, but we've seen Ross in this position before. We've seen him on the ropes in a championship battle, even heading into the last 3 or 4 rounds. We've seen him really up against it, and he comes back and he lands a knockout punch out of nowhere.
Season 1.
Season 1. A perfect example. World GT Championship, we've seen him do that as well, where hasn't necessarily had the pace of who we thought was the championship favourite, and then all of a sudden he just turns the screw when it matters. So you can't write him off, but I do agree with you. It's going to be tough for him to keep that resolve, but that's what makes him the champion that he is that he's able to bounce back from these kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. He's somebody that I've raced against for a long time. I've seen his good side, I've seen his bad side as well. But he is certainly, definitely somebody who is tenacious, who will not give up. That's for sure. He won't give up. I just think that Kieran Harrison has just had that edge every single round that we've come to of this championship.
Well, that showdown between Kieran Harrison, Ross McFarlane and whoever else of the mad bunch at the front of the field who want to join is coming up just shortly here on RaceSpotTV. We're going to step away. We'll be back in just a moment. Welcome back to RaceSpotTV. It's Peter Mackay here alongside Paul Smith in the commentary box, preparing for a showdown here in race number 3. 20 minutes of racing, a very small reverse grid here, Paul, and a lot of big names within that top 10 ready to try and get themselves on what are going to be 3 very highly prized places on the podium.
Yeah, and it's a very small reverse grid as well, which these drivers are going to be contending with. So we're expecting a full-blown race between Harrison and McFarlane in this final one, but don't write out Wojtek Savinovic either. We saw how he took advantage of those two battling, and he could get himself a race win here. You never know.
And also, Norbert Leitner's got to be absolutely chock full of confidence after race 2 there as well. You know, he won with a good margin in hand. Yes, he had a decent grid position, but he carved through the pack and he had good pace compared to the rest of the field. So yes, he's going to have to come from 10th, but he's in a really strong spot, I think, as well, in terms of his pace as well. I can't wait. It's going to be an absolute cracker on RaceSpotTV. After this round, we've just got 4 rounds to go, 12 races left after this one, and the championship chase continues on. One part where the championship is just getting closer and closer into the hands of one driver is Dan Martin in the AM class. Nobody can touch him right now, Paul.
Oh, he has been absolutely sensational in the AM Championship, and he certainly has had the bit between his teeth when it comes to doing well in that championship, and he's got himself a handy lead there, as you pointed out. And just looking as things stand right now, I mean, 146 points. It's so favourable for him, but those track conditions again, they're still not favourable.
No, they're still very, very difficult. 46 degrees Celsius. Yes, it's not as high as the dizzying heights of 57 last in the last race, but 46 still high. It's still going to be low grip, difficult for our drivers, but they'll have prepared for that. That's what we've come to expect here at Interlagos. It's never going to be cool track temperature here.
No, it's not. Not unless it's middle of the night or very early in the morning, which we had in race 1. Was quite an early morning race, but when you get into these afternoon and mid-afternoon races, the track temperature really ramps up here in Interlagos.
Yeah, it certainly does. It certainly does. 15 seconds to go then in this practice session. Very well subscribed practice session. Andreas Gilman, top of the timesheets, a 143.1. Dan Martin on there, a 143.3, as is David Baker. Terje Flatten with a 143.5 there also as well. So lap times that would have seen you at the front of the field in race number 2. Such was the track temperature and how difficult it was to run the lap times there. But let's see how they line up then for this third and final race of the day here in round 8 of the World Touring Car Series live here on RaceSpotTV. It will be Terje Flatten who starts on pole position alongside Ross McFarlane, with championship contender Kieran Harrison starting from 3rd and Wojtek Savinovic starting from 4th. Szilard Nagy will start from 5th alongside AM class leader Dan Martin. There they are. 7th will be Øystein Herford with Esteban Rodriguez, Jack Sedgwick, Norbert Leitner, Matthias Pentela and Sam Blees rounding out the top 12. Then in 13th it's Sam Smith with David Baker, Jaroslav Sebula, Craig Williams, Pete Newman and Stephen Walker. Then it's Tom Stanley, Damon Mulqueen, Andreas Gilman, Richard Simner, Mike Pollard and Stuart Bickley in a DCW racing trio. Alan McCain is 25th, followed by Slavomir Jaworski, Ben Gregory, Scott Malcolm, Neil Stevenson and Jamie Rushworth. 31st will be Rob Sutherland, followed by Matt Elmore, James Parker, Nick Clibbins, Paddy Faulkner and Harry Fox. 37th was Corentin Guinness, watch him come through the field. Then it's Hakenas, Chris Chariton and Spencer McCarthy. So the drivers all lined up, ready for action then, with Terje Flatten ready to come to the pole position to lead us away into 20 minutes of racing to close off the day here at Interlagos. This getaway for Ross McFarlane, critical, Paul. Absolutely critical.
Absolutely. He needs to get ahead of Flatten and hope that Flatten can hold up Harrison and have Wojciech come in front of them as well in this one. It's going to be a key point of the start is that one, but there's a couple of drivers, as you say. Currently Guinness starting towards the rear. He needs a good run through the field here in this third and final race of the day.
Yes, he does. Yeah, if he's to keep that championship hope alive, he really needs to come through the field quickly. So, ready for the green flag then. The revs begin to build, waiting for the green flag. Off we go then. We're racing here at Interlagos once again. Here in the World Touring Car Series, it's a decent getaway from Terje Flatten and immediately covers off across McFarlane. It's not such... excuse me, from... Kieran Harrison has dropped back many positions there as well. Not a good start there from our championship contender, Kieran Harrison.
Yeah, second row of the grid, and he's dropped down to 6th place, so he must have either bogged down or really spun up his tyres, so not the best of starts for Kieran. He's going to try and make the move on Dan Martin early on in this race. They're coming through to Interlagos, and still Harrison in that sixth. Oh my goodness, Craig Williams! Well, I think we could safely say he got helped off the track there.
Oh my goodness me, that's a huge hit there for Craig Williams in the Audi. His race over, and Dan Martin, his big championship rival in the AM class, he's fighting up there with the pros in 6th, so again, more goes towards the favour of Dan Martin, but Terje Flatten still holding the lead. McFarlane's got to try and get past and try and break away, put some distance between himself and Kieran Harrison. It's a mystery what happened to Kieran Harrison off the start, because he was starting from the second row of the grid and dropped positions immediately, so it must have been something to do with that getaway, but we'll try and get another look at it if we can. But Kieran Harrison there, he's behind Szilard Nagy and Wojciech Savirovic, and that's not going to be a whole lot of fun. Oh dear, well that'll do it.
Yeah, I think I can sense Conor Imaddick shaking his head right now at that rejoin from off track. That was one of the iRace cars.
I don't know if that particular car that hit Craig Williams was really in control. I don't think it was a rejoin. I think that was the accident still going on at that stage. But what a pity there for Craig Williams. Not anything he could do there. Really unlucky. So this is Harrison. Let's have a look.
Oh, that's a bog down.
Oh, massive bog down there as well. And he just gets completely swamped, and understandably so. I mean, Paul, tell us about getting these cars off the line. How regular is it to get that kind of real proper bog down?
I mean, I can't personally say that I suffered it that often, because I used to have one of the steering wheels with the 2 clutch paddles. And so you could have one paddle just fully depressed and the second one at your bite point where you need it. Hold it on the handbrake, dump the clutch to the point where you need it with the bite point, and then just slowly feed it in, and away you go. Not everybody has that, so it could be that it's just not quite got it right, and well, it's definitely not quite got it right, and that's just dropped him down the order, and you just feel so silly. You just sat there whilst watching several reasonably priced cars going flying past you.
Yeah, you certainly do, and just shows you, but as we're talking about how things can change in these championships so quickly, and you know, Harrison, you're right, Paul, has kind of had the pressure of McFarlane all the season long, but one tiny error can be so costly and can really change the momentum. And McFarlane there in second, he's 3 spots ahead of Harrison at the moment. Hasn't been able to get past Terje Flatten until now. Up the inside then goes McFarlane. Flatten gives him the room, so Ross McFarlane then goes into the lead here at Interlagos. Flatten drops back to second. Now, can McFarlane push away? Can he break away from Flatten, or will he end up getting in a battle with a geodesic driver? Because if he does, that will bring him back into the clutches of Savirovic, Nagy, and critically Harrison. Here comes Flatten on the fight back.
Yeah, he's not going to give that one up without a fight, is Flatten in the geodesic car, as McFarlane hold it around the outside. It gives you the inside for the next few corners here for Ross, so he'll be hoping that he can get clear, because Savinovic has already caught up 0.3 of a second just by these two being compromised through Desida del Lago. And meanwhile, Kieran Harrison has made it ahead of Nagy, so up to 4th place now for Kieran. He's trying to make that recovery drive, as Jamie Rushworth is showing on my screen as having causing a yellow flag, so he's had an issue out there.
Just coming to that last point on Kieran Harrison's start, Paul, you notice there that he might well have started in the wrong gear, which might have too high a gear. Would that be the case?
You can't actually... now... I don't believe you can actually change it into second gear until you've actually gone green flag. So it's been a little while since I've made a getaway. And it's another DCW car! Just darting out to the left. That's the second time tonight that we've seen one of those DCW racing cars dart out to one side and clip another.
Yeah, that is, and that one you can't blame it on lightening up on the grass. That was, like you say, a dart across to the left at will. So, yeah, not good. Ross McFarlane, this is a critical phase of the race for him. He cannot afford to get into a battle here with Terje Flatten. Terje Flatten doesn't care. He wants the race win. He's not in the slightest bit worried. Let's have a look then. We're on board with Harrison. He is in first. No?
He's released the clutch too early.
Aha. Oh, he'd be kicking himself about that. Because you would think, Paul, that, I mean, I guess the top drivers, they're practicing those race starts regularly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
and they'll have it to an art.
Yeah, they will. And, you know, something might have distracted him. It might have been... He might have got caught out by how quickly the lights changed from red to green, you know, or might have held for longer than they expected. You know, things like that can just get you caught out, and you're ready to go, and he's just dropped the clutch too much, and it's just bogged down. And well, as I say, there's no worse feeling at the start of a race than when you do that.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. Just a simple error, but a costly error as well, and Kieran Harrison will know that. But 13 minutes to go, and we know that this season he's had more wins than anybody. He had great pace, lots of pole positions, and yeah, he's got pace to forge his way forward. McFarlane is not quite able to shake off Terje Flatten yet, so it's still game on here as well. So it's McFarlane who leads then from Terje Flatten. Wojciech Savinovic holds the last spot on the podium for now, but Kieran Harrison is rallying there in 4th place position. Then it's Norbert Leitner. Great start from Leitner. He started 10th, don't forget, up to 5th. So Leitner having a fantastic day. Remember, he came into this race 4th in the championship, 194 points in arrears. So Leitner in the fight now, as well as all sorts going on here, coming through onto the Retta Aposta, and that's, well, Guinness finding himself in the mid-pack melee, not where he wants to be.
Along with Sam Smith and Mike Pollard, and I think Pollard is trying to follow Guinness through there. Guinness is like the lineman, just making the gap for the running back to run through, and yeah, certainly not working for him. But Guinness is already up 16 places in this race, so he's really making some moves in that mid-pack.
Yeah, that's great to see. Great to see. So approaching half-race distance then, and Ross McFarlane is not breaking away. In fact, Savinovic and Harrison appear to be getting a bit closer here as well. So we've got a proper race on at the front then, and you can see McFarlane just struggling for grip there as well. This is these high track temperatures, they're not being particularly kind to that Pure Sims Hyundai Elantra.
Certainly not. And yeah, 45 degrees track temperature. So we are cooler than race number 2, about 13 degrees cooler, 12 degrees cooler. So it is cooler out there for them, but you've still got to be careful to not put too much heat through those front tyres, or else they'll feel like they're just marshmallows under you, and you won't give you the grip that you want. Now you think, oh, marshmallows, they're nice and sticky. Yeah, but they don't. They just go everywhere, and yeah, those front tyres will be feeling awful by the end of this race. I can guarantee you that.
Well, we're only at gas mark 3 now rather than gas mark 5 that we were on the last race as well, which, like you say, will melt a marshmallow as well. But Jack Sedgwick there, he's making a move on Shillard Nagy, so moves up into 6th place.
Dan Martin is dropping down the order. There's a Pure Sims car. Pete Newman. There's Dan. Oh, watch you rejoin, Dan. Careful now. But he's dropped down the order. Bit of damage to the rear there. There's a bit of damage to the rear of Dan Martin's car. So the policeman's grandson in me says that there might be a story there. Oh yeah, quite a big dent in the rear. So I'm putting that one in my pocketbook. You don't be observing car.
Getting rear-ended. Yes. Would be my hypothesis there, but we'll try and get a look at it if we can. That means Matthias Pentela is now your leader in AM, but he has Sam Blees right behind him, who is a pro. However, we know how fierce those geodesic cars can be, and yeah, Pentela is going to have to be careful. The second place AM driver is the number 961 of Tom Stanley, who's only a couple of spots behind. Then it's David Mulqueen and Richard Simner. So yeah, can Pentela hang on to get an AM class win in that little Honda?
Don't write out Damon Mulqueen as well, third place in AM. You know, he was the early pace setter, wasn't he, in the season?
Yes, he was.
In AM. He's got himself involved in a few little incidents through the season, but yeah, don't write out Mulqueen from this one. Oh yeah, there you go. You got it absolutely spot on. It was Pete Newman who got into the back of Dan Martin. Martin, I think, has done tremendous to avoid the barrier here. Oh yeah, bosh! Thank you very much.
Yeah, that picture say it all there, really. Because it wasn't as if Dan Martin had changed his line and then hit the brakes. He'd changed his line, waited, and then hit the brake. You know, there was enough time there for Newman to react. Oh, not much time for that. Oh my goodness me! Oh, that's a contender for the John Virgo Trick Shot Award, actually.
And Neil Stevenson once again, one of the unluckiest people on the grid, and it's a DCW racing car. I think the team boss is going to have to spend some money on some new wing mirrors for these drivers to give them a bit of extra visibility out there.
Yeah, if they don't behave, they won't be getting any more pairs of free gloves. Goodness, yeah, I've been in the wars today. Have DCW Racing, and of course they're in a pretty fierce fight for the Pro-Am Teams Championship, and if you're starting from the back because of qualifying bans, because of incidents, that's not going to help your chances at all.
No.
And that's the Will Buxton Award for the most obvious statement of the day.
Well, I've stopped watching Drive to Survive, so I don't know what it's been like recently.
I won't pass judgment, but yes, I could see what you mean. Ross McFarlane leading from Terry Flat, and he's not been able to break the geodesic driver at all. In fact, you could make an argument that McFarlane's actually a very quick cork in the bottle here as well, because Flatten hasn't been able to get by, but Savinovic has got closer, and so has Harrison. So 7 minutes to go. Can McFarlane hang on to this win? It's not a case of can he pull away. That appears to be beyond him at this stage, but he's got to defend really hard to try and hold on to this win, because there's 3 drivers queued up behind him who want to pick his pocket.
Flatten was a tenth and a half faster on the last lap compared to Ross McFarlane, so yeah, he has got a bit of pace about him. Yeah, we're into that last half of the race, so drivers now starting to feel the effects of the hotter track temperature, and they're really pushing these cars, but McFarlane doing everything that he can to hang on, and it's all about that run through that corner, through Junsao, up the hill, because it's such a steep hill. You've also got the effect of altitude here as well. You know, iRacing does simulate the effect of altitude as well on cars' performance, so they're really pushing these cars to the extreme here.
Yeah, they are, of course, quite heavily turbocharged, these cars. 2 litres pushing over 350 horsepower. So yeah, that lack of air is going to really sap the power, that's for sure. And Yeah,
It's not as bad with a turbocharged car as it
as
would
a
be if it
normally
was naturally aspirated. Yeah,
Of course, yes, of course it is, but it still doesn't help at all.
No.
That's for sure. Of course, they were talking about that at Rally Mexico last week. Of course, the new top-level rally cars now are hybrid, and that really helps because the hybrid is not affected by the altitude, so the cars are leaning on that hybrid more in the absence of the power.
Now that was a mistake by Flatten. He made a mistake into Interlagos, and that's allowed Wojciech Savinovic to close right on to his rear bumper. No move being made though by Wojciech, and Kieran Harrison, I think, is going to start getting a little bit impatient here.
Yes, I think he will, but it's so tight and the lap time's so close. There's only a tenth of a second in terms of the best lap time between all four of these drivers, so it's so difficult to make that move and make it stick without a kind of counter attack. Here at Interlagos, if you get a move done, it's so easy to be able to lose that position again on the flip flop as well. But McFarlane's hanging on to this well, ran a little bit wide there. That might compromise his run a little as Terje Flatten gets the power down that little bit earlier and into the draft then of McFarlane. McFarlane keeping it as tight as possible to the pit wall, almost rubbing it on the way past. And here comes Harrison, going to try and make a move on Wojciech Savinovic. Savinovic goes hard to the inside there in the orange Semper Racing car, hard on the brakes, and Harrison just cannot find a way through. And like you say, Paul, that's got to be frustrating.
It's frustrating, but if you're Ross McFarlane at the front, you're dancing a jig right now because it's holding up your main championship rival here, and it's really helping him out. But of course, in races 1 and 2, Harrison finishing ahead of McFarlane as more moves being made in the mid-pack. Pentala, your top am, well, he's got Guinness behind him. That's a sight you don't want in your rearview mirror if you're an am driver.
That's an incredible drive from Corentin Guinness. Absolutely incredible. As Esteban Rodriguez now trying to hold off Szilard Nagy, as David Baker there also, for the Pure Sims cause there too, making a move. But what a drive from Corentin Guinness. He started pretty much at the back of our 40-car grid, and he's up to 13th. That's remarkable. That is just remarkable.
Yeah, it certainly is, and it doesn't look like that many places when you consider against fellow pro drivers, but overall, as you say, 24 places gained for him. That is a wonderful drive. It just shows the pace that he has over the majority of this field. But 3 minutes remaining. Ross McFarlane's got a half a second lead. He's had a good lap this lap, and I think he's feeling a little bit more confident as we reach the line. Should be around about
2 to go.
2 to go, yeah.
Yep, 2 to go here then. Yes, it has been a good lap there from Ross McFarlane. 142.791, a 142.885 for Terje Flatten. Savinovic was about a hundredth of a second quicker than McFarlane last time by. Harrison actually the slowest of the leading four, but you're talking very, very fine margins. And I tell you what, if the gloves come off in these last 2 laps, Norbert Leitner there, just lingering in the background in 5th, he could be in line to profit here as well. And Leitner, in fact, Leitner was on the pace of our leader Ross McFarlane last time by. He got 0.2 of a second closer to this leading group because of Harrison being at the back of the group. So we might well have a leading quintet from a quartet.
I think it's just a little bit too late that Norbert is coming, but you're absolutely right. If they do start squabbling, if they do start tripping up over each other, then yeah, he'll rock up on the scene and say, "Ooh, I've kept myself some places." But you can look at how these 4 cars, being in that concertina, it just slows each other down, and it's just allowing Leitner, who's able to run his own pace through those that tight and twisty section, to just to catch up that little bit on the cars in front.
Yeah, well, the white flag is being prepared at the flag stand then to be shown to Ross McFarlane, signalling 1 lap to go then. And Flatten is rallying as well, trying to get as close as he can to McFarlane to try and mount a challenge. But the pace of these top 4 drivers so tightly matched as well. So white flag in the air, final lap of the day here at Interlagos. 1:42.8 last time by for McFarlane, and indeed Flatten has rallied 2/10 quicker than McFarlane last time by. So does Terrier Flatten have a bit of late race pace here to make a charge? And it's identical lap time to the 1,000th between Harrison and Savidovic. Incredible, and Leitner gets even closer to them, and we do have a quintet on here.
This is great. This is a great finish to this race, and I just don't think that Flatten is quite close enough to make a move on Ross McFarlane, and likewise for Savidovic to make a move on Flatten. It's Kieran Harrison who has been absolutely glued to the rear bumper of Wojciech Savinovic that could be the one who makes a move like that one down the inside.
Well, he tried to get that move begun. It often takes 2 or 3 corners to get it fully complete here at Interlagos, but again, Harrison just can't quite seem to make a move stick. It's very frustrating indeed, but McFarlane at the front of the field, he's pulled a couple of car lengths here out of Flatten. He saved a little bit of tyre, it seems, just for this last lap push. Ever the professor is Ross McFarlane, and out of the final corner they come then. It's going to be a win for Pure Sims, for car 127, and Ross McFarlane, his championship charge is strengthening with this win here at Interlagos. Sergei Flatten is going to come home second, and Wojciech Savinovic rounding out the podium. Harrison has to settle for 4th. He is going to rue that race start, Paul.
He certainly is, and he'll be kicking himself for that one. Penteler, worth pointing out, Matthias Penteler across the line takes the AM win in this final race, managing to hold off Sam Blees at the end.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, brilliant stuff. Matthias Penteler, he felt like he deserved it after, didn't quite shuffle his way in race 2, but answered back in race 3. 14th overall and winner in the AM class for Honda. Great to see the little Honda Civic Type R. As you can probably tell, they are definitely outnumbered by the armada of Hyundais in this field. So good to see a different manufacturer up there on the top step of the AM class podium. But it's McFarlane who comes away with the overall honours. He came into this round as the overall championship leader, and that win really helps his cause in the battle with not only Kieran Harrison, but Corentin Guinness, who fought his way through from 37th to 12th. A performance definitely of major note, Paul.
Oh, absolutely. 25 places gained in the end there for Guinness. I mean, that is the sign of a champion, to be able to work his way through the field and to get up to that place and only be 12.7 seconds off of the race leaders in a 20-minute race. I think that's really good going.
Yeah, no question about it. This is how they finished then for the third and final race of the day after 12 laps of fierce action. Ross McFarlane, your winner then, from Terrier Flatten, and Wojciech Savinovic gets that last spot on the podium. It's been a great night at the office for him. Kieran Harrison had to settle for 4th after a difficulty off the race start, and Norbert Leitner a solid finish, going from 10th to 5th. Jack Sedgwick came home in 6th, making it 3 top 10s on the day. Esteban Rodriguez 7th, David Baker getting home in 8th, with Szilard Nagy and Oisin Hereford rounding out the top 10. Jaroslav Shebula was 11th, with Corentin Guinness charging through from 37th to 12th. Stephen Walker came home in 13th. Then it was our AM class winner in the Honda, Matthias Penteler, in 14th overall. Sam Blees was 15th, followed by Tom Stanley, Damon Mulqueen, Andreas Gilman, Richard Sindler and Sam Smith. 31st was James Parker, followed by the Hyundai Elantra of Rob Sutherland. Then it was Nick Clibbins, Hakan Ask, Chris Chatterton, Neil Stevenson, Pete Newman, Jamie Rushworth, Harry Fox and Craig Williams, all not making it to the flag. So, well, what a thrilling day at the office that was here in the World Touring Car Series. And we've got our AM class championship leader, Dan Martin, waiting in the lobby to come and have a chat with us and tell us his thoughts on the day. And he joins us now, and Dan Martin is down with Paul Smith.
Well, I mean, Dan, we look at the this round for you. It was 2 AM wins for you to start with, but things didn't quite pan out the way you would have wanted it in this third and final race.
Yeah, you could say that, but I mean, that's just racing, isn't it? Got to take the rough with the smooth. I mean, it was unfortunate with what happened with Pete. You know, I did the exact same thing to Norbert in race 1, so it's easily done. So, you know, no hard feelings on that. It is what it is. We still managed to get back through a few spots, although the racing was just as rough, let's say, out the back there. But you know, I'm really happy with the first and second race. You know, it was really good to be mixing it with the guys at the front. The bloody competition is amazing. It was so good. It was such good fun. And Matthias getting the race win in number 3. He's racing with us guys now at RDC Sports. That's a 1-2-3 in all the races today. So we're really chuffed for that.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful to hear that. And well, I mean, looking at your season as a whole, Dan, I mean, we saw Damon Mulqueen have the early running for the AMs, but then you've really sort of picked it up from round 3, week 3, should I say, onwards, really, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, I came in with the mindset of just get through the first couple of rounds, see where we're at, follow on the momentum from last season, where we ended up quite strong at the end, and, you know, just keeping an eye on the drop scores as well, because I know the scoring system doesn't include that yet, but it was pretty close. I think there was only 40 points between me and Craig going into today. Unfortunately for Craig, I saw he disconnected early, so I assume that was a bad outcome for him. But this is going to go down to the wire. I may not look at now on the points, but when you take into drops, it's going to be close, and it's just about being consistent. You know, taking a rough with the smooth like race 1, 2, and 3, and just bring it home. You know, just be respectful for everyone. You know, and hopefully that's reciprocated.
Absolutely. Well, we'll let you get off, but congratulations, 2 AM wins and a really good haul of points for you today.
Yeah, thanks very much, guys. Good night again. So see you next week at Watkins.
Certainly will. So there we go. That's Dan Martin joining us here for a chat, Peter, and he does sound happy with himself, and why wouldn't he be?
Absolutely, yeah. I think it was on the whole another very good race meeting for Dan Martin. Didn't quite go his way there in race 3, but still finished in a reasonable position, still scored a bag of points, and I think he's been quite modest there with the difference between himself and Craig. His lead's pretty commanding, but I can understand he won't want to believe it until he's got it over the line. You know, we've still got 12 races to go, so lots to happen, but he's put himself in a really, really strong position. Final thoughts then, Paul, before we sign off for the night. Watkins Glen next week, what can we expect?
Well, it's on the classic boot as well, so it's going to be slipstream all the way down the back straight in towards the carousel. It's all about the flow of that track and to get that working with the slipstream, and never say never around that one. It's a great track for racing, but the S's on lap 1, it always catches somebody out, and unfortunately we have seen some big accidents in the past at Watkins Glen. Hopefully we don't get that this time, but certainly it will be fun next time out.
It certainly will be, and we'll have all the action from now until the end of the season here on RaceSpotTV. Don't miss it. Next week, same time, 8 o'clock UK here on RaceSpotTV. It'll be myself, Peter Mackay and Paul Smith taking you to the action there. But for tonight, thanks so much for watching and good night.